Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Shockley. I'm the interim CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors, and I'd like to welcome you to the Coffee Talk this morning. Before we get started, just a few announcements. Tomorrow we have a virtual Fair Housing Continuing Education session. Registration is still open, so you can still go to that. Find more information and registration links on the website, gpar.org. There's also a session on October 14th if you cannot attend tomorrow. On September 25th, we're participating in Making Diversity Work in Your Real Estate Business. And also save the date, November 20th. That's the annual meeting at Live Casino and Hotel in Philadelphia. Again, all of that information is on our website, gpar.org. And then to kick things off this morning, I'm going to turn it over to Annette Collier, President of the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. Annette.
Great. Good morning, everyone. It is really a pleasure to speak with you all with this legendary Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. I'm just really delighted about that. But I also want to say I hope everyone had a fantastic summer. I want you to know that the board and I are very excited about the present and the future developments that are occurring. There's been a lot of work that's been going on at GPAR, and I want to thank our professional staff, our board, and all of the members who are involved on the committees and also coming out to our event. So much appreciation to you. So let's talk about Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. So good morning to you, Councilwoman.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It is truly a pleasure to have you here. Years ago, you and I were on the Philadelphia Tribune's charities board, and I was about 30 years ago. Might be a little bit longer than that. But anyway, I really always admired your leadership ability and you carrying through what you said that you were going to do. So it really impacted my life, and I'm just really happy that you were with us today. With that being said, could you tell us about yourself and which part of the city that you call home?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, Annette Collier, for what I view as an opportunity to speak with your the leadership and the membership of GPAR. And you reminding me of that story is a reminder that the circle always loops. And so when you're in positions of responsibility, it's important to remember how you treat people, how you conduct yourself, because you never know when the circle is going to loop back. So this opportunity is a first. It's actually a first since I've left Philadelphia City Council in March 2020. So my short story is that while born and raised in the city of Philadelphia, I was born in Sumter, South Carolina. And one footnote that would be of interest to the membership is today in my mother's town of Elliott, South Carolina, our family still owns 100 acres of land after multiple generations. And so my siblings and I are very, very proud of that. And whenever we have the Zoom calls, 35 heirs on the phone trying to decide what we're going to do with that land down there. So raised in West Philadelphia, graduate of Philadelphia High School for Girls, affectionately known as Girls High, a proud Penn State alum. I do bleed blue and white, and did both my undergraduate and graduate studies at Penn State, and trained as a teacher, as an elementary school teacher, as an educator. Spent a very short 3 years maybe in the world of education, and because I will admit now, terribly ambitious. I wanted to be a principal in year 4, and they said it doesn't work that way. So I left education and began to build my career in youth development, youth programming, and stumbled into the world of electoral politics because I was a block captain on my block and disturbed by young people spraying graffiti on walls. I was just really upset about it and not happy. Spoke about it, learned that there's a world called block captains, became a block captain, and then someone tapped me on my shoulder to say, you should really consider being a committee person. So I was appointed a committee person in the 24th Ward, 3rd Division, down by the zoo, formerly known as the Bottom, today known as Mantua. And that led to more doors opening for me to learning, understanding, and being exposed to the world of electoral politics while I was still building my career in the education youth development space. But fast forward, because of my volunteerism on my block and as a part of the committee ward structure, State Senator Fattah offered me a position to work in Harrisburg. The gruesome, for me, ugly picture in Harrisburg was that there were 50 state senators. Only 2 looked like me. And of the 50 state senators, there were no legislative aides of color. No, that's 50. If there are 50 state senators, each state senator has a legislative aide. There were none of color. And I went to complain to Senator Fattah one morning, and he said, well, Blondell, don't complain about it, be about it. So with that, what he was saying is, if you want to change, you have to get in the ring. And that planted a seed. And 4 or 5 years after that, I ran for office. Lost the first time out the gate by less than 2 votes per division. Ran again 4 years later and won, and was reelected 5 consecutive successful elections at citywide races, which means you run like the mayor. Council people at large run like the mayor, trying to gather and capture votes from the entire city of Philadelphia, from the deep parts of Southwest to the upper parts of the Northeast.
Wonderful. You know, what I heard you say is really speak about leadership and wanting to make a difference. And I really think that's a takeaway for us, you know, in our organization. I mean, that's a great story, and just really doing the ask and following it through.
Yes.
What was your journey into public service? You kind of spoke about that, but I guess what kept you still engaged in that arena?
Mm-hmm. Well, issues that all of us have, issues that sort of burn in our spirit, issues, public policy issues that gnaw at our gut and our intellect, and I'm no exception to that. So my initial desire and engagement was just to improve the lives and life chances of Philadelphia's children, and that was a benchmark or a cornerstone, if you will, of my legislative work for the 20 years that I was in council. Once I arrived in council, I learned to understand, embrace, become engaged with other issues that impact our city, like environment and sustainability. Public education was a given. Youth development was a given. Like lack of funding for arts and culture and how that feeds our hospitality and tourism community. And so the learning of other issues fueled my interest and my intellect. And for me, I had to then decide, of the myriad of issues facing the city, and there are a gazillion, which of those issues was I going to laser beam focus on? And they emerged to be the advancement of women in all sectors of the stratosphere, government, for-profit, nonprofit. I had a lot of issues about what was not happening with women, for women, on behalf of women. The arts and culture sector, the environment and sustainability, which was new for me in 2015. And of course, MBE, WBE participation. Councilman Good and I became 2 peas in a pod, and just strong vocals, strong champions for what was not happening in the MBE, WBE space. So to your question, the more you learn, the more you want to learn, and then you think strategically about those issues where you think you can create some impact.
Wow, I love that. I mean, I'll tell you something. Your leadership, our current leadership in the city of Philadelphia, is very strategic, incorporating the experts, and even in, you know, dealing with you, and also what we are in right now in the city of Philadelphia. It's just very impressive to me in terms of the leadership and
Yes.
reaching out. And I like what you said about the arts, how that leads into tourism. And for us in the business world, that tourism can lead into real estate.
Absolutely.
So if somebody likes the city, they might want to invest in the city of Philadelphia with real
Absolutely.
estate.
It feeds the tax structure, it feeds the real estate community, and the domino effect is massive. I mean, that for a short while they're doing another administration next to eds and meds. The tourism and hospitality community was the second leading biggest sector in the city of Philadelphia. And knowing that, it behooves public policy types to figure out how you can grow that sector and help it thrive, because that also equals jobs.
That's right. We need that. And we need higher salaries in Philly.
Yes, yes, yes.
Can you describe the history of collaboration with you, your office, and how what it had with external organizations such as GPAR, and what did effective coalition building look like?
Well, the bottom line is that no legislator can do it alone. For those who think they can operate in a silo, in my opinion, will end up being totally ineffective. Yeah, it's important to build allies with those who support your legislative initiative and learn to understand those who do not support your legislative initiative, because you got to have all voices at the table if you want to indeed move a piece of legislation along. Our office was very, 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 very effective in building allies. One with HAPCO, I had a major interest in the issue of lead, and a lot of the science told us that children were being poisoned by lead at unacceptable levels in the city of Philadelphia. And for 8 years, my staff and I crafted pieces of lead legislation that made opponents very unhappy, understandably so. But we became such comrades, if you will, the leadership of HAPCO and my office and the health department. I would gather all of us around the table so that all of us could hear from all sides on the best way to resolve the lead issue. And our relationship was so positive that the leadership of HAPCO, Harvey Spear and Paul Badger and others, invited me to HAPCO meetings so that I could hear from the membership, not just from the leadership, but from the membership, how we could craft lead legislation that would not be egregious for the HAPCO membership. So I'm very, very proud of that partnership, because we indeed became effective partners. And then working with the Urban League of Philadelphia OIC around workforce development, a number of women organizations. I sat on the board of Girl Scouts and Girls Inc., and many more than I can count, because I was always concerned about advancing opportunities for women. Served on the board of arts and culture organizations like the Philadelphia Dance Company for many years, like the African American Museum in Philadelphia for many years. And why is that important? You have to drill down and gather a depth of information about anything. The only way you do that is by becoming engaged. And the engagement leads to partnerships, which helps you move legislative matters along.
Good. That's very good. I know that we're pushing all the time for our membership to be engaged, because that's the only way we can hear. We're the boots on the ground when it comes to real estate on all levels, right?
Yes.
Whether it be appraising, whether it be sales, whether it be commercial real estate development, we're all involved in those spaces. And so hearing what's happening in those different arenas and bringing it back to GPAR is extremely important. So I
It's
really
very,
like
very
what you
important.
said.
And you have to be up close and personal and present in those various spaces.
Mm-hmm. Very good. What are you most proud of during your tenure as a member of City Council?
Thank you. I'm always excited to talk about, very specific pieces of legislation, of the 75 pieces of legislation that ultimately became law. So in the children and youth space, many may not recall that in year 2000, Philadelphia had just received $350 million from the state. And now it was time for the city to cough up its contribution to the building of the new Eagle Stadium and a new Philly Stadium. And I'm for development. It matters for all the reasons that we understand. My view, however, was if we're going to build brand new stadiums, then we need to figure out how we could do something for children, because the rec centers were falling apart and after school programming was not where it could be. It's important to always do your homework twice. And so I looked around the country to see what other cities were doing when they were building new stadiums. And I learned that San Francisco had just finished building new stadiums, and they require its owners the teams to give $1 million per team per year. I thought that would be a great opportunity for Philly. So with the help of Mayor Street, who really became my champion at that table, He took my proposal to the owners of the Phillies and the Eagles, and they said, no way, not a problem. The legislative process is about finding the middle ground, no matter how long it takes. So I always have a kitchen cabinet of people who are smarter than me, but who care about a particular issue. And I had convened 5 women that I met with for a year, with us commiserating about how we could do something for children. The yield of that was to take back to the Eagles and the Phillies $1 million per team per year for 30 years. They accepted the offer. And so today, it's law. The Eagles and the Phillies, for the last 15 years and for 15 more years going forward, must give $1 million per team per year to the Philadelphia Foundation, which houses those dollars. And those dollars had to be, and I thought that was great. I was excited about it, but I also understand if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So I said further to Mayor Street, let's put in writing what those dollars are to be specifically used for. Arts and culture programming for kids, early childhood education, parenting workshops, athletic programming, and a fifth one, and a fifth one that I cannot remember. And so that piece of legislation is now law, still exists. But here's what I did about 5 years in. I said to the Philadelphia Foundation, print for me who you've given those dollars to over the last 5 years. I want to see it in writing. I discovered that they were actually funding programs outside of the county of Philadelphia. That's a violation of the law. And so I brought that to the attention of the leadership of the Philadelphia Foundation. And before I left, I asked for that same list again. And Pedro Ramos now heads up the Philadelphia Foundation. So as of 2020, when I left, those dollars are used strictly for programming for young people in the city of Philadelphia. Any nonprofit can apply for those dollars. Any nonprofit can apply for those dollars and use those dollars for any of those 5 areas. My next biggest piece that I'm thrilled about that consumers and voters and constituents can easier recognize is now when you go into Starbucks, Wawa, Capitol Grill, any of the large chains, you will find nutritional information on the menu. Calories, sugar, salt, carbohydrates. That was my bill. It took me 2 years to find 12 votes to get 12 members to support that legislation. The Pennsylvania Restaurant Association hired lobbyists. Of course, the City of Philadelphia Restaurant Association hired lobbyists to block my bill. But the science had spoken. And what the research says is that when we have the information, consumers actually make different nutritional choices on the menu. And I'm proud of that because now more and more cities are adding nutritional more and more restaurants nationwide are adding nutritional information on their menus. And in Philadelphia, it was a result of my bill and working with the health department to make it real. But it took 2 years to convince 12 members that was the right thing to do.
What motivated you to do it? I know that Mrs. Obama, that was something that she and Dr. Biden got involved with. But what motivated you in Philadelphia to make this happen?
Great question. I was a Robert Wood Johnson Fellow for 4 years and had the chance to travel to 6 different cities around the country during that period. And at the same time, the National Institutes of Health, which is now under attack, had produced a report that obesity in America was on the rise. In the African American community, it was a crisis. And amongst children, it was deadening. And so that was the impetus. That was the motivation. What can we do to make grow healthier children? And the menu legislation was the ticket. Seattle, Washington had already passed the legislation. The health department in New York City had already passed regulations. And so when you have models already in place in other municipalities around the country, it helps to guide and inform how you want to proceed in the city of Philadelphia. But that was the impetus. Obesity was on the rise. And it's dealing with, and so I would give my colleagues, I would test, like, what has more calories, a milkshake or a cheeseburger? And it was amazing to me the answers they got wrong because they didn't know understand the nutritional value. But that was the impetus. Obesity was on the rise.
Okay.
Mm.
What other things are you proud of serving as city council? I know there's a whole list. I know that.
I was able to put a few additional pieces of government in place. We now have the Office of Sustainability and the Environment. So there's an office that is responsible for guiding the city's practices around growing a green city. And I thank Mayor Nutter for understanding why that was important. The Office of Women Engagement. At the time that I introduced that legislation, we did not have the Office of Women Engagement. There were 31 cities across the country that had an office that focused on advancing women, and Philadelphia was not one of them. Now, we've had executive orders for a mayor's commission for women, but the way executive orders work, once that mayor or that governor or that president leaves their position, the executive order it dies. And so we didn't have a mayor's office of women under Mayor Nutter. And so under Mayor Street, again, Michelle Obama had produced a massive report on the status of women and girls across the country. I was struck by that, and the where women were not achieving in ways that were equitable ways with our male counterparts. And we won't talk about what was happening with girls and African-American girls in particular. So with that as the backdrop, for a solid year, we studied it, produced a report, introduced pieces of legislation, one of which including creating permanently a mayor's women's office of engagement. And so that's in place today forever, no matter who's sitting on the second floor.
Okay. And I'm glad that you mentioned about the Office of Sustainability and Growing Green. So one of the designations that we have within the National Association of Realtors is a green designation. So I just want to make sure our members know about that. And I also want to give a shout out. We have 2 commissioners, Councilwoman Brown, that are members of the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors for the Mayor's Office of Women Engagement. We have Commissioner Katie McGrath and also Commissioner Emily Wang. On the committee, several of our members are serving on that as well. So I'm so happy that you did create this. I did not know that there were 31 other cities that had done this already. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that we're catching up because we're the 6th largest city. So you would think that we would be on the top of all subject matters.
Absolutely, yes. And we're way behind in so many different sectors. So having an office that's permanently in place to advance, elevate, and just create equitable opportunity. That's all we're asking for. Just give us a seat at the table, because there's still too many tables in the city where women are not at the table. And my attitude has always been, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And if you're on the menu, the discussion is not in your best interest.
Ooh, that is, listen, you are a woman of knowledge. And, you know, I honestly, I think we kind of miss you as a council person, and I'm hoping that more people that get involved legislatively read your book, which I'm going to flash that book, and you know, just all your contributions to the city of Philadelphia. In your opinion, what are the most pressing issues facing both our city and city council today?
To the interest of GPAR, development in the city, in my opinion, and remember, I was an at-large member, not a district council member, who, to their defense, have to be exceedingly cognizant, paying attention, and conscientious about development in their districts. I believe universally across the city, development has not been managed in a way that creates equity across communities. And so that I'm thrilled to learn that Mayor Parker is going to create a new task force. And you know, too many times the work of task force, and the document ends up on a shelf and nothing happens to it. But from what I understand, developer Gerald Sweeney is going to be leading up a major development group task force, and you may want to make sure that GPAR is represented on that committee. Okay, that the voices of GPAR are represented to more carefully look at, evaluate development that's happening across the city. But I think that's really at the top, because it's it creates a domino effect for so many other opportunities, or not, for those of us who live in the city. We do know, again, just based on data, I had a chance to listen to President Kenyatta Johnson this past Sunday on Inside Story. He cited the stats in a more specific way, but I'm pleased to know that violent crime in the city is dropping. Now, we'll never be satisfied with whatever the level is, but to know that the numbers are decreasing is symbolic of the mayor's in your face, the mayor and the police commissioner working as a team, and their very strategic in your face tactics and strategies that they're putting in place to address the crime issue. Because we know that right before COVID and surely during COVID, crime was through the roof. And all roads ultimately lead to the second floor, and what the second floor is or is not doing when it comes to major issues facing the city. So crime, I believe, should still be considered a priority, because it impacts businesses, it impacts families, it impacts communities in ways that we see on the news every single day. Right now, the most current relevant issue is SEPTA. And what we're not able to do with the what the Democratic members of the House and Senate are not able to work with the members of the Republican side of the aisle in Harrisburg. I worked in that world for a year, and even then I learned that Pennsylvania is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with Alabama in between. So that hasn't changed much. And Governor Josh Shapiro has a tall task to bring like-minded legislators on both sides of the aisle to the table and figure out the long-term remedy for SEPTA. That's an in-your-face, everyday, boots on the ground issue that's impacting everyone, from seniors to students and everyone in between. Everyone in between. So if I had to ID three, those would be the three.
Okay. And so for those of you who don't know, the second floor she's referring to is the mayor's office.
Yes.
You got to go through security.
Yes. Yeah, you got to go through security every day. That happened after 9/11. All of those safeguards and all of the barriers that you see around City Hall, all of that happened after 9/11.
Right. But I am happy to say that this mayor is very open doorish, shall I say, very approachable, very similar to Rendell when he was the
Yes.
mayor and the governor.
Yes, yes, yes. She's really about getting stuff done. And,
Oh, yeah.
and we may not always agree with her methodology. We want to be concerned about the results. And I applaud her get stuff done attitude. She's not a benign leader at all. She's just not a benign leader. And I could compare her to others, but what we know is that there's demonstrative, in your face, tangible, evidence-based difference between her leadership and her predecessor.
Mm-hmm. And just so you know, Councilwoman, GPAR is at the table. So, for example, Ira Goldstein, he has the Philadelphia Residential Assessment Task Force. So I think he's in the process of, so I've had the opportunity to serve on that. We are also Home Initiative. She was at my inauguration. She swore me in, and all that she said she would do, she, has opened that door to us. So I've been doing that. And then the task force that she created regarding bias appraisals, I think it happened somewhere after George Floyd was murdered, and the discovery that there was a $48,000 difference on the value of African-American homes in comparison to other real estate.
Wow.
So that's been a great thing that we've been a part of, and trying to help to resolve that. So we're looking forward to those partnerships and helping to create new appraisers, and make sure that it's diversified as well, with more women and people of color as well.
Yeah, let me continue to encourage the leadership and the membership to spread the presence of GPAR throughout the government, so that you're at the table hearing what's anticipated, and it puts you more in a proactive mode versus a reactive mode. So I'm thrilled to hear that their members, the representation of GPAR is touching different parts of government. Continue to encourage that.
And then, of course, Alan Dom is on a tax reform. So there's a great concern about the
Right.
vacancies of commercial properties and trying to bring businesses back into the city with a better tax structure for businesses. So your new book, and I'm going to put this up. Hopefully everybody can see it.
Thank
Walking
you.
a Tightrope Backwards and Heels tells the intimate story of being a woman in politics. What was your inspiration to write this memoir and hopes for its readers? And who were some of your mentors and inspirers along the way?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, give the Cliff Note version answer. Let me first say that it took me 6 months to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to run for a 6th consecutive term in 2020. The race would have been 2019. So I had to make a decision in 2018 if I was going to run in 2019. And I decided after 6 months of sheer anguish, this was a decision that I had to keep close to my breast. I discussed it with my daughter and my sisters only, because the walls of City Hall talk. And if you know once the whispering stops, it's tough to shut it down. So when I decided to leave, I decided to leave for a number of reasons. One was because I wanted to do some other things while I was still healthy. And I saw too many members of city council leave city council, go to the hospital, and never get back home. I did not want to be one of them. That's number one. Number two, my daughter had recently graduated from college. I was recently divorced, and I lost my mom. So I was grief stricken, so I made that decision shrouded by grief. But I will say to you that I have no regrets at all. And one of the reasons I have no regrets is because I'm now able to do some other things. And one of those things was to become an author. I always wanted to write. And so during COVID, when the world was shut down and we were forced to reckon with, for me, what I'm going to be when I grow up, because I decided to retire, my daughter noticed that I pulled out her children's books, because what I'm going to do next is complete my children's book series. And her message to me was, Mom, you have a story to tell. You should write your story. And so in 2006, I made a comment to a Philadelphia Inquirer reporter. I said, being a councilwoman at large is like walking on a tightrope backwards. And where I got that from is, as a child, I loved Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. As a former dancer, I love to watch black and white movies of them dancing. And if we recall, Fred Astaire danced forwards in flat shoes, and Ginger Rogers danced backwards in high heels. So that's where that image comes from. And so that became the title of my book, Walking a Tightrope Backwards in High Heels. Actually, blindfolded is what I wanted to say, but my publisher said, Blondell, that title's too long. So we have Walking a Tightrope Backwards. And it's simply a recounting of my 20 years in city council, which at times my walk was unsteady and uncertain, because what the readers will discover or learn is that I went through a major career firestorm that almost did torpedo my career for about a year. And it happened at the exact same time while I was going through divorce. So my personal life was colliding with this career firestorm while I'm raising a daughter and taking care of my mom. And for a year to 18 months, I was in a very dark tunnel. I was a broken woman. And I'm here to say, I talk about that in chapter 12, When You're the News, because I was the news for 18 months. I was front story Inquirer. And so my daughter knew most of that story. She heard that story in the mornings as I took her to school. I love to tell the one short stories that I'm taking her to school this morning. She's in middle school. And I said to her, well, Mommy was in the Inquirer again last night, and Mommy's the front page of the Inquirer again this morning. And I just need you to know, so because you may have classmates who talk about your mom being in the Inquirer. My daughter never said a word. As she got out the car, she said, Mommy, my friends don't read the Inquirer. So it gave me such relief. But for 18 months, I had to figure out how I was going to raised $40,000 in fines. I've been fined more than any other elected official in the city of Philadelphia. As a Black woman, there was some prejudice there because the ethics board, most of which did not look like me. And I had to have a friend of mine who's an Italian guy tell me, Blondell, you need to, see through the forest. Part of this is because you're a Black female. So my story is a recounting of that very, very difficult time. It's very candid. It's extremely unvarnished. It's exceedingly transparent, but it's about the walk and the tension between ambition and care and falling off, almost falling off, pulling myself back up, regaining my position, hiring a new team, because I had to let go of my entire campaign team, all of them. One of them who actually got me in boiling hot water, and rebuilt my team, paid the fines, raised another $250,000, and win the re-election in 2015. That's the story. And the recovery and the chapter 17 is all the lessons learned from that very dark season.
Woo. You are a warrior.
That
And
I am.
also
Never say
an
die.
encourager. Also an encourager because, there are including myself, who may have had challenging times where you're dealing with your business and you're dealing with your personal life and you're trying to balance it, you're trying to make corrections. So I
Yes.
really appreciate your transparency. And I just see there's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. You can never say die, number one. Quitting is never an option. And learning that nobody gets a pass with challenges and firestorms. Everybody at some point in their career gets sucker punched. And the challenge is how you're going to rise above it, craft a strategy, and find your way to not only get to the finish line, but cross the finish line successfully. That's what it is. And so you discover what you're made of or not. You find out who your friends are or not. You discover those who take invisible steps backwards, and then you get blessed by the angels that show up, who are going to hold your hand and walk you through that awful dark tunnel. And if you just stay with it day after day, incrementally, you begin to see that little spicker of light at the end of the tunnel that gets brighter as you self-correct that firestorm.
Wow. Whew, that was heavy. That was heavy. And while you were talking about Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, I think they did Singing in the Rain, right? Didn't they do the Singing in the
Absolutely.
Rain?
Yes.
I remember that. That was one of my favorites. And when I was a kid, I used to run through the rain with an umbrella. I think
There
I
you
got
go.
motivated
Very
because of that
symbolic,
movie.
right? Singing even in the rain. Very symbolic. Very, very symbolic. So yes, it's for the late night warriors and the early morning risers, and those who do drop off, the multitaskers who do the drop offs in the morning, and those who rush home at night to read the bedtime stories, and all of us in between.
Good. And also, you mentioned about the importance for the realtors for us to collaborate and go through City Hall. I want to give a shout out because one of our past presidents, Barbara Capozzi, I'm not sure if you know her or not.
Yes. We
She,
love Barbara Capozzi.
she's on with us today, and she
Oh,
actually
wow.
created, under her leadership at GPAR, the Real Estate Coalition, which incorporated HAPCO and the BIAs and the Apartment Owners Association. So I really want to give gratitude to Barbara for making that happen. That continues on today. And I have a very large favor of you, Councilwoman. I
Yeah.
want to give Barbara a book with
Oh,
your
wow.
signature in it. And talking about that, I know you have a book signing coming up
September
on
the 17th.
and I think you're going to be September the 13th too, right? At
Yes,
Macedonia
that's
Church.
right. There's one September 13th at Macedonia Baptist Church. That's the soft launch, if you will. And then the official launch is being hosted by the Philadelphia Free Library Foundation at 1901 Vine Street on Wednesday, September the 17th at 6:15 p.m. It would be a thrill. Barbara Capozzi is a rock star.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is, and definitely a great leader and a mentor and very, very
Oh,
knowledgeable. And I have
yes,
much
she
respect for
is.
her as well as you. And so what would what would you say in terms of moving forward? I know that you've had a lot of influence with Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Yeah, she's a rock
Uh,
star too. I'm biased, but you know.
I think, did you not mentor her, I believe?
I met Catherine when she was 15 years old at our alma mater, Girls High School. When she was 15 years old, I went there to speak. Short story. She wrote me a note. She dropped it in my front door here in Winfield, 52nd Street. In fact, the house I bought was the house that Sam Katz grew up in. That's where my daughter was raised for 25 years. And I answered her note. I got a note, gave her a call. And from that, her hearing me at Girls High, to her giving me a note, to me responding, follow up should be our middle name. Everybody's middle name. You got to follow up with folk. Even, if it's, and I just think that's so important, and it separates business people from real business people when you do the follow up, right? So she ultimately came to my office as a high school intern. She went to college and came back to be a volunteer. While working for Penn Human Resources, a position opened up on my staff. I offered it to her. She was a devoted volunteer, constituent service representative. She then became constituent service director. The legislative aid position opened up on my staff. She goes to Yale Law School, gets a certificate, Yale School of Government, gets a certificate in legislation, campaign manager, whatever. She became my legislative aide. She was outstanding. From that, I promoted her legislative director. My chief of staff decided to go become the government relations officer for PGW, David Ford, and I offered her staff director. She was exceptional. When I tell you she was exceptional, she helped me solidify an already terrific team. From that, I said, you need to be chief of staff. And when I left, made the decision to leave city council, she was the second person I called. I said, I've made a decision. This is my decision. This is why. And I need to know if you're interested. She said, let me speak with my husband. I need 40. I said, you have to the end of the day, Sunday. She called me. She said, woman, I want to do it. And from that point forward, we crafted a strategy, asked Jonathan Seidel to be a co-chair and Ryan Boyer. And we created a team and we won. And she has become a strong voice, responsible, fair, conscientious, good member, has a great heart in the Philadelphia City Council and made us all proud. Even when she disagrees, she does it with respect, right?
Yes.
And so we're very, very proud of Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you so much. And I'll tell you, our government affairs director, Lexi McDowell, the way to Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is through Blondell. So remember that. Remember that. So
Relationships matter.
yeah,
Relationships matter. Relationships matter. That should be in capital letters, bold ink, underscored.
because she made it very clear, whatever you say, that's what it is. So I mean, much respect for giving her the opportunity. And I would
Yes.
say mentorship is extremely important, even in our industry. So really grateful to you. So do you have any words at all that you might want to say as we conclude?
Yes. Again, I need to begin with the end in mind. First, saying thank you again for this first, because I'm really into first. And this is the first opportunity where I'm speaking to GPAR in this fashion. I don't take it for granted. I really appreciate the half hour, 40-minute, for whatever it is that we've been together with this. I want to underscore the importance of stretching the tentacles of GPAR in different sectors of government so that GPAR is present and paying attention, which helps you be proactive and not reactive when legislation is coming down the pike. Cultivating relationship with members of council who care about the big picture is important. Again, to be proactive and on measures that GPAR wants to advance. And then GPAR can be proactive and coming up with ideas that you believe members of council should undertake as a legislative matter. That would be
Great,
my
thank you.
assignment to GPAR.
Yes, and we receive it, and we've ongoingly had a government affairs director, and I mentioned Lexi McDowell.
Outstanding.
She's doing it. She was previously with the Philadelphia International Airport, so
Oh,
we're happy.
wonderful.
Yeah, so she's very familiar with the councilmatic offices, so I think we're in some good hands here.
Very, very good. And cultivate relationships in each one of those offices. And relationships takes time. Authentic relationships take time.
Yes. I want to remind everybody that if you're interested in attending the book reading and the tour stop at the Free Library, Vine Street, that's going to be September the 17th. You can go to the Free Library's website.
Yes.
And you will go under events. There will be authors, and our wonderful Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown will be listed there. I believe it's free. Some of the other offers, there's a fee, I don't know, $5, something like that.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for doing that. And I really encourage our members to attend it. Plenty of space. They have a large auditorium in the lower level of the library. So thank you so much.
Yes, that's going to be moderated by 6ABC Tamla Edwards. So that should be a really dynamic exchange that evening.
Wow. Some people are sending love to you through the chat. So
that's encouraging. We all need encouragement.
Thank you so much. Before we end the call, I just want to reach out to our interim CEO, Jennifer Shockley. Do you have anything before we conclude?
Nope, there are no questions in the chat. So we'd just like to say thank you so much, Councilwoman. That was so inspiring to hear your story and words of wisdom for all our attendees today.
Well, to all of your attendees, I say thank you back again. In Swahili, it would be asante ana. In Spanish, it would be muchas gracias. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great
really
week.
Appreciate you.
Have a great week. Make it as productive as it can be for the organization.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
And much
Until
love
next
to
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So long.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.